Good morning. I am Shonda Wingo, the Interim Director for the Franklin County Office on Aging. Welcome. We are so excited to have you here for our first Senior Seminar Series. This is a new series that we are launching. It's an hour long. They're educational sessions that our agency will be hosting to help our seniors and their families that we serve learn more about the important topics that pertain to our seniors and their families. Today's topic will be financial exploitation. According to the FBI in 2021, there were over 92,000 older victims of fraud, resulting in a $1 billion loss. This was a 74% increase from losses compared to 2020. What's hard is that those 92,000 victims are those we call our parents, grandparents, friends, aunt, uncles, friends, and neighbors. There have been even more members of the family who have been fallen victim to scams, and I have firsthand seen the anguish it can cause. My hope for you being here today is that you'll be able to better identify the different types of scams that are out there, learn more about the warning signs of the scams, what to do to protect yourself from being a victim, and what to do if you or someone you know is a victim of financial exploitation. Today, we have two amazing speakers lined up for you. Our first speaker is Nancy Sullivan Graff, who is the Financial Education Manager for BMI Federal Credit Union. She will be speaking about some common scams among older adults and how to maintain your financial well-being. Our second speaker is Terry Russlander, who's a retired detective and current Elder Services Coordinator for the Grove City Police Department. She'll be going in more in depth on what financial exploitation is and the scenarios that she's been working on in the field, as well as what to do to protect yourself. Before we get started, we do have a Q&A feature, which you can ask questions for our speakers. Please feel free to submit your questions into the Q&A and we'll get those answered at the end of the presentation. Please make sure your questions do not contain any confidential information since this is a public event. Participants also have the ability to turn on live captions. You can turn on this setting by clicking the three dots on the top of your screen. Once you click the three dots, a menu will pop up and you can then select live captions. So with that, I will now turn it over to our first speaker, Nancy Sullivan Graff.
Okay, thank you and welcome everyone. I'm going to put my deck up and we are going to jump right in, and I'm also going to set my timer so we stay on track here. Okay, well, hopefully you are seeing financial fitness for seniors, the one slide on the top on your screen. And I am going to also do a little bit of a disclaimer that I'm a financial educator, not a lawyer, investment advisor, or tax accountant. And she already talked about being careful about sharing online. This is what I'm going to talk to you about today. What common scams, and also how to stay financially well when you are a senior, really any age. And where I get my background from is I am the financial education manager for a credit union. And we, regarding common scams, I went to our fraud people and talked to them about what are we seeing in our membership in Central Ohio. We are based in Central Ohio. We have like 40,000 members. And I'm like, give me the top three. What's going on that I can make sure people are aware of, and then get some tips on how to avoid that. And then really the part on financial well-being for seniors is what I drew from my work with members. I also do a lot of one-on-one financial coaching with our members. And what I'm seeing, the people that are doing well, what are they doing? It's more a positive approach, not don't do this, but this is what you can do to protect yourself. And you'll have to see what you
We may have lost our speaker.
So yes, it seems that Nancy froze, so I'm sure she'll be joining us again. We can just give her a minute Shonda, I didn't know if you wanted to just share as we wait for Nancy, if you wanted to share what we are doing here as far as the agency, or I can give a quick overview on adult protective services and as well, if you would like to have the opportunity to just share that information as we're waiting for Nancy to join us again.
I could do a little transition. So here at the Office on Aging, we are moving into a space of advocacy and education. And we want to make sure that our seniors are protected and have information necessary to remain in their homes as long as possible. And a big piece of that is financial exploitation and awareness. And so Caroline Rankin, our Assistant Director of Supportive Services, has been phenomenal in ensuring that our agency has a presence and that we are able to cover this ground in many ways. And so I will turn it over to her to let her talk about what some of the initiatives are that Adult Protective Services has been engaging in so far this year.
Great, thank you. So, as Director Wingo has shared, we as an agency are really working hard to make sure not just our seniors, but all residents know the importance of just what you can do to be proactive, do things to protect yourself. And I know both speakers will speak on that. But no, we are here as a resource for you. We are here for you to reach out to as you are concerned for your loved ones, or if you have concerns for yourself, that you can you can contact our office at 614-525-4348, and we will take a confidential referral and do an investigation again to help you. We are here. Our goal is safety for our residents and support of our residents, and that's what our whole goal is. We never want any older adult, and I think Nancy was talking about that. You didn't do anything wrong. You are a victim, and that should not be something that you are embarrassed about, that you don't share. It's important that you share that information and you can so that we can provide assistance to you. With that, we want to know that we are here for you for that information. We're gonna, I know Terry Russlander was gonna talk about that, and I'm not sure if Nancy has joined us again.
I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
I'm gonna put it back over to Nancy. I will say if we have any future issues, we'll just jump right into Terry, because the two of them I know will provide just dynamic information. Thank you.
I apologize. I don't know what happened, how that just dropped. But anyways, we're going to move right into this. Okay, so sorry about that, folks. Okay, so we are seeing three common scams that we're seeing the most with our members. And the first one is imposter scams. And you've probably heard about this. And those can take different forms. Romance scammers and like authorized representative scams are imposter scams, or someone pretending to be someone they aren't. The romance scam is where typically there'll be an online relationship with someone in another state or another country. They develop the relationship over time, and eventually it always ends up with they are asking the person that they're preying upon to send money for like a medical procedure, or to send money so they can come visit, that kind of thing. And those people who are isolated and lonely will fall for those. And I think Carolyn, I caught a little bit what you're saying. These are not members that are not smart, good people. It's just very common, and these scammers are very, very sophisticated. And then authorized representative types of scams are, have you ever gotten a phone call from, this is the IRS and you need to call back immediately, or we're going to send the sheriff, or this is the Social Security Administration. Another one I'm aware of in my own family, my mom gets calls from someone from her internet saying they're from her internet provider all the time, that they need her to get on her iPad and do some corrections, which is of course ridiculous. But you got to be careful about their impersonating someone. Our next common type of scams are investment scams. And I think that kind of self-explanatory. They lure the member or the person with saying, if you would give me some money, I'm going to double your money, or we're going to make really good money if we do it that way. And that's kind of preying upon people who are afraid they're not going to have enough money as they age, that kind of thing. And then our third, and I am going kind of quick through this because I'm going to give you some resources where you can get real deep into these details if you want. Job opportunity scams. This is the type of thing where someone maybe takes a job, and a lot of this stuff is online, but not all of it. And then they're going to send you a check to equip yourself, to get the equipment you need for the job. And then they send you too much, so they want you to send some money back. And then by the time that all happens, the original check bounces. And you know, if you deposit a check into an account at a bank or credit union that bounces, you are responsible for those funds. So that one is, you got to be careful about that one. Any type of time when people are sending you money, you can always at your bank or credit union, as you deposit it, tell them to put a hold on the check, which means the funds are held in the account. They don't become available until they can assure you that the check is cleared appropriately. Now, if someone is desperate for money, that doesn't work. So they're more vulnerable, but that's a tip to be careful about that. Now, warning signs across all of these scams: sense of urgency. Number one sales tactic, scam tactic in the world. We got to do this now or this opportunity is going to go away. If they don't want to meet you in person is another tip. They want to do everything over the phone or online because they could be anywhere, and you can't count on caller ID anymore either. If this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, we're never going to have this again. That's kind of related to a sense of urgency. Watch out for those. And we always have to be, everyone, not just seniors, needs to be very careful about unsolicited messages, like text messages and emails that you are not expecting, that you did not ask for. Also, this thing about requesting payments in a specific way, I can guarantee you the IRS or any government agency never is going to ask you to pay for things with gift cards. We're seeing that where they'll tell the person, I want you to go and get a gift card, and then give them the numbers and the code on the back over the phone, and then they can go spend that right away. And you should not be paying for things if you get a request for gift cards. When you are requested to wire money, and the third way is through those cash apps, if you're using things like Venmo, those three ways of payment are extremely difficult for us to claw back. Typically, once you've hit okay on those, it's very hard to get that money back. I would suggest if someone, say you think it's someone you want to send the money to, say, you know what, how about I send you a paper check? See what they say to that, and then you can keep an eye on that. You can still do stop payments on checks if you get them in time. Usually they won't accept that, so that's a clue for you. People still use paper checks. Banks and credit unions are still good with paper checks, so that's a good tip to say, well, I don't want to do a wire. Why don't we do a check? And then you should also be, when you go in or when you set up the check, make sure you're talking to someone. Also, if anyone is requesting your online banking credentials, if you do online banking through an app or through the internet, the website, you have your username and you have your password. You need to be very careful about giving those out. Typically, the scammers will say, well, if you give me your online credentials and I can put some money in your account for you. They don't need that to get money in your account. They can send you a check, or there's other ways to do that. I will say though, some people panic and say, oh, I gave somebody my password, I'm worried about that. We go, well, slow down a minute. Okay, let's right now change your password, right? There's ways to intervene in that. So those
Looks like we lost her, so let's move to our next speaker, Terry, and then Nancy, when she returns, can pick up where she left off.
Okay, that's no problem because as long as everyone can hear me, I'm not frozen. So my name is Terry Russlander. I am a retired detective with the Grove City Police Department. I spent 33 years on the department, last 24 as a detective. I specialize in elder financial exploitation. And in fact, I was on a federal task force. Which is really good about today is the fact that Nancy's taken a lot of my material when when I talk about scams. I talk about things to do, what to look for. But what I'm going to do is, do you want me to go ahead and share my screen? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to just go into my stuff. So when Nancy comes back, she's going to be able to tell you about specific scams. Please write down my information, because when we're not talking, you can call me directly. I love helping people. I work with Adult Protective Services. One of the words that I use all the time is collaboration, because you got to work together. You have to work with Adult Protective Services. You got to work with other social agencies. You got to work with the police department. And just like working with banks, I do presentations around the state with Adult Protective Services, with law enforcement, with banks, for financial institutions. So if you have a question, please ask me. Again, I'm the Elder Financial Coordinator because I came back. My chief asked me to come back and help with resources of seniors. They also asked me to come back because they missed me and they wanted to see me again. I think it's the opposite. I miss them. When you retire, you miss people you work with because you're with them all the time. But anyways, I don't have a lot of time. I usually do a 2-hour presentation, and now I only have 20 minutes. So I'm going to rush through this. So bear with me. So financial exploitation, it is out there. Again, Nancy's going to come back and talk about scams, so I won't be talking about scams. I'm going to talk about a little different financial exploitation. I'm going to talk about the illegal and improper use of elders' funds, property, or assets. I just took, I went to a facility this morning and talked to the executive director on 2 different cases, and she's wondering if it's exploitation. Of course it's exploitation. Just because you're power of attorney doesn't mean you can take all the assets out of the victim's bank account. And so now that person's going to be have to leave that facility. So a lot of people have to realize that friends and family take advantage. I had a case real quick to talk about financial exploitation and talk about the different methods. I had a case where a son took money from the mom. She was in her 80s, and I got him convicted. Well, when he got out of prison, he actually went to prison, which is pretty lucky in Franklin County. When he got out of prison, he went back to mom and says, "Hey, mom, they're going to send me back to prison unless I pay my fines. So I need this amount of money every week to pay my fines." Luckily, she, contacted me again, thought that was weird. So I arrested him again and was able to prove it. So this time we had to work and we had to put together a safety protocol. That's what I'm going to talk about. We need to start thinking outside the box, because the behavior is going to happen again. And what Nancy was talking about with the romance schemes, stopping people, because that's all emotions. That's somebody, it could have a great family, great kids and everything else, but that special someone is calling them every day. How incredible is that? And so they'll do anything. If they say that, I need money for a phone, send me $1,000 because I'm in Europe, I can't do anything. They will. They won't even think about it. So trying to stop the behavior is what I'm going to be talking about here. But the methods of financial is scams. Nancy's talking about it. And identity theft, again, those are scams. When you talk about theft, you talk about theft, coercion, and fraud. A lot of these things are fraud. Everyone says, well, that person voluntarily gave money. Well, they didn't. It's through deception, and that's what you have to look at. Undue influence, that's one of my favorite words when I was a detective. I had that written on my board behind my phone, because when I talk to people, I'm getting up there. I'm over 60, so I can use the elder card, but to forget those words, that's what it's all about, is undue influence, because people nowadays trust people. When I grew up, you didn't have to have your doors locked until you're in at night. Now, if you cut the grass in the backyard, you got to shut your garage door. So it's a whole other ball game. But what I'm seeing also is abuse of legal authority, which is power of attorney. Again, I have a 2-hour presentation and we can talk about power of attorney, but both my cases this morning that I talked to the facility were power of attorney thefts. When you're power of attorney, you have the to make a decision, if it's a financial or if it's a health one, if the person can't make a decision. Otherwise, and it has to be towards that person. So when I talk about theft, what I do, especially if you're an investigator, social worker, or somebody, you know, somebody that comes in, or an elderly person or family, make sure you know what the laws are. Simple law, theft, without the owner's consent, beyond the scope. But the biggest thing, the word that you really need to know is deception, threat, or intimidation. A lot of times, if say a son is taking care of mom's money and she questions it, well then, well, I'm just going to have to put you in a home. And so they don't want to leave their house. Schottenstein's, Beverly Schottenstein is a big name here in Franklin County. Her grandsons, okay, they worked for a bank and they ended up embezzling over $60 million. She kept on asking questions, but she had to hire an attorney to find out where her funds were. So, you know, it's all through deception case. So identity fraud, most times, besides theft, an elder law they have in the state of Ohio now is they figured that most of the victims are elderly, over the age of 65. So they changed the law. So normally, if you steal from a person who's 45 years old and it's worth $500, it's a misdemeanor. But it automatically, any theft from an elderly person is a felony of 5th degree. So identity fraud is huge. That could be opening an account in someone's name, or it could be using someone's credit card. That actually starts off at a felony of 4th degree, and then it goes up, and you can see what the different degrees depending on how much money is taken. So when we talk about investigations, again, we're talking about scams included, but we're also talking about other financial exploitation cases. So we thought about it, and we came up with 3 different scenarios. The first scenario is a theft from a competent person. What that means is just like you and I, that we were scammed, we were embezzled, you know, all those words. So that's easy to prove. You follow it up like a normal case. The second one is a theft from an incompetent person, and that person is unable to make a decision. So that person's deemed incompetent by probate court. So that means that a guardian can only make a decision. So if you have someone who has a guardian and you ask that person, hey, can I have $500? They can't legally say, yes, you can have it, because they're no longer competent. So those type of cases are very easy. You just give medical documentation, this person's incompetent. You get the medical records, you get the guardianship records. So that's a case that's pretty easy. It's the third case. That's very hard. It's hard for law enforcement. It's hard for adult protective services. It's hard for families. It's the ones that are marginally competent, but because of undue influence, they can't make a good decision. I have a lot of cases when I try to help victims with resources right now. The family says she doesn't need to go into a facility because she can take care of her everyday needs. She can cook, she can clean, but she gives into these scams. And so what you're telling me is she's not financially able to make a decision. You can get guardianship for just finances. You can get guardianship for the person or health. It doesn't have to be all in one. So you got to think about that, because that person, especially like a romance scheme, is not going to stop. So again, you need to set up some type of safety protocol. Now, again, I told you Nancy took my my material, but don't worry, I'm not going to charge her with anything, because you got to be friends with the banking industry. And when I put this position I'm working on now, who to do presentations to, if you think about it, it's the banking financial industry, because they're the ones who see all this stuff, you know, pastors, religious people, medical people. Those are the type of people we need to educate on things to look for. But Nancy will tell you a little bit more about these scams. So who are the suspects? I mean, that's a great question. It can be anybody. You can't trust anybody. So what I'm going to talk about is the suspects on fiduciaries, meaning financial people. Power of attorney. Again, I would like to spend next 10 minutes on power of attorney, but I can't. you have to, if you're power attorney, you have to use the money towards the person. Payees, which is a federal system where if you get Social Security, you can't take care of your money, then a payee fills out an application. They actually have to file a report on, they have to use it towards that person. Guardianship or conservatorships. There was a attorney who was a guardian. He ripped off over 400 of his wards because he had the power to do that. That's still theft. Just because you have the power to do that kind of stuff doesn't mean you can steal from them. Trustees and trusts, other professionals who have obligations to act in their client's best interest. The reason I got onto a federal task force with the IRS, and before we go any further, I can't help you with your taxes. I have contacts, but I can't help you. So is because I had a guy that worked for Ameritrust. It was he was financial advisor for these people for their 6 different families. 2 of them were deceased when I took the case, but he stole over $1.5 million from them. And basically what he told his clients is, hey, I have this new company, let's invest in it. And of course they're going to trust him. He's an advisor. So they did. He owned that company. And what he did is he even did fraudulent statements saying you're making all this money. So he ended up going to federal prison. But so you got to look at that kind of stuff. Who are your witnesses? You know, when we talk about Nancy, Nancy can say this, is your bank tellers. Your bank tellers know when the elderly people come into the bank, actually what day, what time, they do the same thing. So if they're coming in with different people, or if they're coming in with younger people, there's a red flag. Pastors, they talk with their, that's who they trust, that elderly people, senior people, I'll call them, because I'm one of them. They trust your neighbors. Doctors, what I was trying to do, I was talking to my own doctor. She doesn't have a lot of time to ask a lot of questions, but the tech, when you first come in and they take your blood pressure and they take, you know, stuff you hate, like your weight and that kind of stuff. Well, they can ask questions like, who brought you here? Do you live here by yourself? Do you live by yourself? Is someone new in your life? That way, if a red flag comes in, you tell the doctor can talk a little bit more, and they're mandatory reporters for Adult Protective Services. Your family. Now, I do this presentation with Sylvia Plow-Wraith when we go around the state, and she is a director of the Elder Justice Unit with Attorney General's Office. And when I brought this up about having a family member on your bank account, she just said, wait a second. A lot of bad guys are family members, and she's absolutely right. So when you talk to the families, you can find a good family member. Is that what you're looking for? Or a friend? The case I had this morning is the family members is the one who's stealing, but she has a best friend that's taken care of finances before. So I'm going to try to get her set up with more with the finances. Ex-spouses, business contacts, but they know. So when you interview, I do an interviewing presentation. One of the things you should have is a family member there, because a lot of elderly people, again, seniors, they know all the details. They write them down, but a family member may know more of it. So it helps you to get the bigger picture. So like, again, I wanted to put a little bit of all my presentations in and talk about some protocols to help you out. But basically, you know, when we're going to investigate a case, we're going to talk to the victim, talk to family members, again, not the person of interest, gather documents. When we went to school, we learned how to write in cursive. Okay, nowadays you're on the computer, but senior people will take notes. Great evidence. If they loan money to people, they will write it down. They will write down things. So handwritten notes are good. Bank statements. I love bank statements. They're great. I don't have to worry about witnesses. I don't have to worry about anything else because it's in black and white. I can do a forensic analysis of bank statements. I can tell you when the bad guy met this person. I can tell you because of the different, they may start with 100 a week, 200 a week, then they'll do it twice a week, and then I'll increase. It's really cool. I know I'm a little weird about that kind of stuff, but I love bank records. Financial documents, again, handwritten notes. One of the things I suggest is make sure if you have a power of attorney, look at that document, because it may say that you cannot withdraw money. It could say you can only pay bills. Look at the document, look how it's how they got it, and then, you know, again, the last sentence here is turn over to law enforcement, is talk to law enforcement. Collaboration is huge. We want to help you. We're trying to train you on some of this stuff. Talk to them. So some of the safety protocols I came up with, and I know Nancy's going to mention stuff, so this way you hear it from both of us. It's not the same. Again, she took a lot of my material, so I'm trying to have some new stuff. But have a family meeting, because a lot of times when a person is scammed, they're afraid that to tell their kids, because they'll be yelled at or they'll be put in a home or something like that. But if you're there, third party, you know, you can kind of smooth it over. A lot of people are scammed. A 25-year-old scam, I could pull all the ages of all the victims here at the Grove State Police Department. It's going to be all over the place. And so you're not the only person, you know, that's been scammed. Make sure you close the bank and financial accounts if they've gotten into it. Closed phone account. That's the hardest thing you're going to do, is tell someone to change their phone number because they've had it for 50 years. Well, I understand that, but if you don't, the bad guy, once you accept and you're a victim, the bad guy's going to sell your information. So now you're going to get other people. So now you're going to tell me, they're going to say, well, I just won't answer the phone. Okay, but you're not going to tell me that a couple hours later, when you have this voice message, that you're not going to play it. So the best thing to do to stop yourself from being stressed out so you don't have to make a decision, change your phone number. You raised your kids, so have them help you. Call your friends. This is my new number. Call the bank, call the doctor's office. It's a lot better than receiving 10, 20 calls a day from people trying to do stuff. You know, open, same thing with email. Someone hacked my email account, and that didn't make me very happy because I have about 20 different apps and places that have my email. So I had to call them all and change them all. So same thing you have to do with these elderly victims. Social media accounts. Facebook is the worst. People hacking to Facebook all the time. You get a Facebook message from one of your friends saying, hey, I just got this investment. I want to tell you about it. Just call this number and just start with $1,000. Well, someone hacked into that friend. The best thing to do is when you're a victim is contact that friend. If you're a victim of a grandparent scam, call your grandson, because that's not the person that's really on the phone. Call your son and daughter, whoever the parents are. Start communicating, and just like Nancy said before she froze, hopefully I'm not frozen, is make sure, you know, for romance scheme, it just make sure that you're in communication with these people. Closer watch on the individual. I was talking to someone, she said, oh, I see my mom all the time. She sees her once a week. I said, well, that's good. You see her once a week and do everything, but maybe you never stop by twice a week, or you talk to her every day. I understand that, but you got to see the house. You got to see if there's extra mail there. You got to see if there's food in the refrigerator that she says she's eating, but she's not eating. She's a neatnik and there's stuff all over the floor. You got to see these signs, because they're not going to tell you because they're afraid. So just, you know, keep a better watch on. And these are a couple of things that we talk about, especially during Christmas and stuff. Don't be an easy target. If you carry your purse, hold it close to your body, because someone's looking to steal it. Never carry a wallet in your back pocket. Place it inside your pocket or your front pocket. Always tell someone where you're going and when to expect you to return. Avoid dark, deserted routes, even if they're the shortest, and carry a charged cell phone. I remember a friend of mine's mom. She had a cell phone. She kept it in the trunk so no one will steal it. Well, you may need it if you're in the house. Transportation. Here's a huge thing that I've noticed giving resources to people, because these elderlies don't have the transportation. They can do senior options, or senior options do not go into facilities. So who do I ask? So I was able to find some resources through senior options to help them out. But some of the things I suggest for transportation is travel with friends to stores or the bank or doctor. Don't go alone. There's no reason to go alone. When using a bus or public transportation, sit near the driver. Have your keys in hand as you approach the vehicle. Don't worry if you see someone suspicious about calling the police. It's okay to call the police. Don't worry about that. And if you see someone suspicious in the parking lot, go back in the store and ask one of the store people to walk you out. Just trust your instincts. It's okay to get help from people. It really, they like to help people. When I hear stories from people in retail and stuff like that, the best thing that they've ever done is to walk someone to their car. I think it's really incredible. Home safety. Use deadbolts on your locks, on exterior doors. Keep your doors locked at all times. It's sad that we're like that, but we are like that, and you gotta be cognitive of that. If you have an individual that has dementia issues, you can put special locks on the door so they can't wander out, or you can have buzzers on the door, security systems on the door. You can actually get cameras so you know what's going on. I have a camera because I want to see what my dog is doing during the day. To make sure he stays out of trouble. So make your home appear occupied when you're out. Use timers, lights. Never let a stranger in your home without checking their identification. If someone comes up nowadays, just like, we all have identification cards, okay? If someone's delivering stuff, they will have an identification. And if you don't trust them, call the company. There's been times as a detective, I say, hey, this Detective Russlander with the Grove City Police Department, they say, prove it. I said, okay, here's the number to the dispatchers. Call them and have you back up to the office. I don't mind that because that means that you're thinking about that stuff. But one of the things is what if you are a victim? Make sure you tell your family so they're very supportive of you so they can help you through that. Because they're there, you raise them. They are there for you and they want to. A lot of times, when I talk to families, they say, I wish she would have called me. They really, really want to help you out there. Call the local police departments. They will help you out. If it's you can or you can call the Attorney General's office. You can call the FBI hotline. If you feel that because of the financial exploitation that is self-neglect on one of your family members, make a referral to Adult Protective Services. They will certainly help you. Hopefully I got through all that stuff in my time limit because I'm not good with time limits, but I'm going to skate this and see if anybody has any questions. But the biggest thing what I want you to take away is work with other people, collaborate, work with the police department, work with Adult Protective Services, work with your bank, to come up with safety protocols because we are totally there, for you. So, let's see, get this up here. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, Terry. I am not seeing any questions. I do want to ask one, if you could share with the group, and then we are going to go on to at least the presentation of Nancy, and we can share information. Can you tell us on average how many cases you see per month regarding elder abuse, and what is the is financial exploitation the highest category?
So yes. Okay, so financial exploitation has to do with most of the reports. Grove City had approximately 106, Grove City alone had approximately 160 reports, so just over 10 reports a month that talked about elder financial exploitation. That could have been scams, it could have been relatives. Again, Grove City alone. So it is a high number, and a lot of times people don't even know they're being scammed. And that's the problem we have. And with, again, I know with Adult Protective Services, they contact, the police to get involved. That's why it's one of those things that we need more people to tell us, what is going on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think at this point we're gonna go over, and we wanted to share some key takeaways from Nancy Sullivan Graff's presentation. And please know, for anyone in the audience, both presentations will be posted on the Franklin County Office on Aging's website.
Okay, I'm here. Can you see my slide, financial well-being for seniors?
Yes.
Okay.
And I will turn it back to you, Nancy. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I apologize for the technical issues, but I want to get right into sort of the other side of a more positive approach. And you will hear some themes that do go along with some of the things that Terry said. But when I took a step back, and sometimes our senior members will get referred to me for support with things that if there's concerns. What I have learned is that what's happening and what's being preyed upon is loneliness, fear, and that you care for your loved ones. And how do we put ourselves in the strongest position where we're not vulnerable to being scammed? And that those are typically those areas. So number one, what I work with members, and also not just seniors, but members, but I see it more with seniors, particularly if they have someone helping them pay their bills. They've stopped keeping track. And I always start with, how are you keeping track of your accounts at your bank or credit union, wherever you have your savings, your checking, those type of things? Do you have a system for keeping track? You know, and maybe maybe you're using the app, or you're using online banking, you're going through online banking. Maybe you're not comfortable with those things because those are newer for some of us. You know, it's also okay to do the old school way of opening your statement every month and going through the transactions and checking them off. But you have to be tracking your own money. And and wherever you have your accounts, you can talk to them about different ways. Like, everyone isn't comfortable with the app. Everyone might not be comfortable with online banking. I just start with, how do you keep track of what's in your accounts? How do you know? While I was sitting here this morning, I'm at one of our branches, a gentleman walked in and I heard him ask the teller, I need to transfer some money from this account to my checking account. Oh, and while I'm here, could you tell me what my last month's transactions were? And we printed it out for him. I thought, good for him. He's keeping track of what's going in and what's going out. Sometimes if someone else is helping us, or you have an adult kid, they get busy, they just want to do it real quick. That's okay if you have someone trustworthy helping you, but it's still your job too. And what I suggest to my senior members, if someone is helping you, make sure they sit down with you, invite them for coffee or tea or something once a month, and let's talk about what went out this month and what went in, and that you know your balances. I would also tell you that number two is, are you keeping track of your monthly budget? And I don't mean penny for penny, but if I ask a member, what are you spending every month to maintain your lifestyle, and what are you bringing in every month? You should know those numbers. You would be very surprised on people who have lost track of that, aren't paying good attention. I think the pandemic sort of caused some of that, because a lot of spending stopped during the pandemic. But if I ask you, what do you need every month? Typically, what are you spending? You should have a good handle on that. And if you don't, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that we need to sit down and really look at what are the bills, and then what are you bringing in every month? And part of knowing your cash flow situation, if all of a sudden you're going negative on your checking account, you should know, well, that shouldn't happen. I'm bringing in $3,000 a month. My bills are $2,000 a month. There's no way that should be happening. It's a way to keep track. And the sooner you are aware of these things, the more recourse we have. And as Terry talked about, we want to hear from you. Your bank or your credit union wants you to call, even if you see a transaction that might be yours, but you can't remember. Call and say, I'm not sure about that, because we can get in the back end and give you more details on it and see if it's legit or not. Don't be afraid to ask for help. We all have contact centers, call centers that can help you. And by the way, those phone numbers for your bank, your credit union, your credit card, those help phone numbers, customer service numbers, those should be in your contacts on your phone. So you don't have to click on a link like Terry talked about. If you get an email from the IRS, which you won't, but you should be able to go to a separate source to get their phone number. I have in my phone all my credit cards. I got noticed that someone had used one of my credit cards. Well, I'm not going to click on that link. I went right to my contacts because I already had put the service number in there. But you should have an idea of what your cash flow situation is. Enough coming in, what's going out, generally speaking. Maybe you want more detail, do what works best for you. But what I find with some seniors, especially the older we get, we typically are stay home more and we spend less. So sometimes money starts accumulating in the checking account. And a tip I have for you there, a lot during the pandemic, because people weren't traveling and things, is from a banking perspective, is don't keep a lot of money in your checking account. Your debit card is the first thing that's going to get compromised if something does happen to you. And a solution I came up with actually for a family member who was accumulating too much in her checking account. I was like, why do you have all this money in your checking account? And she was like, well, I just haven't gone anywhere for a couple of years. And she's living on less than is coming in. So what should she do about that? Well, our solution we came up for her was to put the money in a CD, because a CD is not going to be hacked like a checking account can be, or your debit card. If you give something, so. And the other thing, her issue was she wanted to stay in control of that money. She wasn't ready to give it out to the kids yet. So the CD was in her name and she could put beneficiaries on it. So talk to your banker about these kind of things. Like, I have all this money, what should I do? What is the safest thing for me to do? And they can help you with that. That's one example of a solution where we took the excess funds that were in the checking account, which were not earning any interest, by the way, put them in a CD for her. And you can do that at wherever you're banking, and put beneficiaries on it. So she was still in control, but that it's a little safer when it's in that type of an account. Next, I want to talk about, what are you doing to stay up to date and informed? If you're here, that's good, but you should have some way to stay up to date on informed on financial stuff. I'm a member of AARP. Their stuff is great. They have a state newsletter. They have a magazine that's national. They do quite a bit on financial scams and frauds. It's very, very good. I'm also a fan of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They put this book out. I don't know if you can see it. I have the FTC, which is very good, which I'm going to tell you how to get to it, but it's your job to stay up to date and informed on how these things are working. And one of the ways we can do that is tip number 4, stay connected. When seniors or people get isolated and lonely, you're so vulnerable. I was talking with our fraud people. We can have a person at the teller line saying they want to wire money to their their new boyfriend or girlfriend in another state, and we can beg them to not do that. We cannot overcome the power of the emotional relationship. And these are smart, educated people. It's very hard to overcome that because of that relationship is meeting their needs. So stay connected with your friends, with your family. Go to the senior center and get involved in the activities. Central Ohio has marvelous senior programming. All the suburbs, even Columbus, have great senior centers. And I have personally really urged members, go with one of your friends if you're nervous and see what's going on and see what kind of programs they have, and go to the talks like Terry mentioned the Ohio Attorney General. They do talks on financial scams. Like, go to those things so you can stay up to date on what's going on and connect with some friends. And the other thing is, if you are wanting someone to connect with you more as a senior, I put back on my senior members, what are you doing to help your friends? Maybe you should be calling a friend, get it on your calendar once a week to check in. And maybe you could start something with checking in with each other, just so you're not sitting there at home alone all day and nobody's calling. I have an elderly mother, and the pandemic was so difficult because she lives alone. So we've worked with her. Don't pick up the phone. Don't pick up the phone unless you know who it is. Use the caller ID, and if it's important, they'll leave a message. But when you sat home for 3 days and you haven't talked to another human being, you're probably going to pick up the phone, right? So make sure you're helping each other with that. And the other thing is, if you have adult children that you want to check in with you more, how about you say, I'm going to call you every Thursday and see how you're doing. You can be proactive too, not just wait for people to do it for you. And one thing I've learned from my mom was the type of person, and still is, who had her Girl Squad from church And those ladies were so good about checking on each other, and that's super important. And if you become somewhat isolated, maybe think about some ways where we can get you connected with what's going on local to you. These transportation products are now out there. All the cities want the elders to stay, so they are doing more services. So we can help, sometimes I'll help members look at what's in their neighborhood. And Terry talked about this too. This is super important. You have to know how to ask for help. If you get a little bit, oh man, I think maybe something's wrong, or this isn't quite right, I'm not sure, but then shame or fear overcomes you, so you don't say anything. We've got to don't do that. You got to pick up your phone, go into your bank or credit union, call your senior center friends, call Terry, call the police. We want to hear from you. We would never say, also members, call in if you have any inkling that something shenanigans is going on with your debit or credit card that you have with us, because we can flip a switch and turn it off instantly, and then we can turn it back on once we sort through things and reduce the risk to you and make sure we can do, have as much recourse as possible. I am seeing that in, I'm a senior also, and I'm seeing this ability to ask for help. Everybody doesn't have that, and that's a real important that you know how to ask for help, and that you know who to ask for help too. So I hope you have a trusted family member, but if you aren't, law enforcement is good, your bankers or credit union people are usually good, and credit union and bankers are now mandatory reporters for financial exploitation. So what that means is we're getting training on this stuff, which is awesome. And helps our members as we know more. We can spot stuff more because we're getting training on it. Terry mentioned, like, if an elder comes in with a new young person that we've never laid eyes on before, we know to pay super good attention to that. So those are the things you can do to set yourself up so you're okay. I think we can do so much research on the different types of scams and frauds that it almost when I was doing this, when we first did something like this a few years ago, I was ready to go move to a deserted island and bury money in a coffee can in the ground, and because it makes, but you don't need to do that. Put a few things in place so you can be best prepared to deal with these things. And this is the booklet I have. Didn't do this. This booklet was done by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And it talks a lot about identity theft, scams that are typical for seniors, and gives great information. And the best thing is it's even in large print, which I know I appreciate. I have these at all of our branches. You don't have to be a member. You want to walk in and get one, get one. The other way, if you don't get out and about and you would like a copy of this, I would be more than happy to put one in the mail to you. These are free from the government. I just ordered more. I think Caroline has some too. This is an excellent piece. What I did with this too, when I got these, my mother wasn't real open to this, so I said, well, let me just leave it here on the coffee table, Mom. And then a couple weeks later, I said, did you ever look through that? And you know what she said? Actually, I did, and I did learn some things. So if you have an elder loved one in your life, I would be more than happy to get one of these in your hands too. It's a very nice piece. Terry talked about identity theft. I think that this is something we came up with at the credit union for our workshop, is just to keep an eye on things. The number one thing I like for identity theft is that you get a text alert anytime your credit card or debit card is used. I've helped members set that up on their phones. Your bank and your credit card and your credit union, they all have this now. It's like I get a text the minute my debit card is used at Kroger. I have a text before I'm even back to my car. That's a real good instant way to do that. And maybe you could, try to set those up or have a trust loved one set you up. If you walked in our branch, we would help you set that up. But that's my number one tip for you. And the second one, make sure you have your financial institution, any credit card companies, any loan lenders, that you have their phone numbers, that you are not relying on clicking on a link or picking up a phone. You can always say, hey, you know what, I'm going to call you back, and call back the number you know is a legit number. Okay, good resources for this stuff. The Federal Trade Commission is a federal government agency. They are like the national police for identity theft. They have a marvelous website at identitytheft.gov, which is very useful information, especially not just if you've been compromised, but if you want to learn how to protect yourself. And I also just found on the Federal Trade Commission's website, they have that second link there for imposter scams. They have videos about the different types of scams, which are really a nice, easy way to learn. You click on, it's like a 4-minute video, and they did give examples of different types of scams. Great stuff. I did not put on here Ohio Attorney General. They have some good stuff on their website too. So, it is the internet. You have to make sure you're on legit websites. So I want, be careful about that. But the federal government websites I'm a fan of are consumerfinance.gov, as well as the Federal Trade Commission's website is excellent. I'm Nancy Sullivan Graff. That is a little bit younger version of myself in that picture. If you have any questions or you want me to put this booklet in the mail to you, I'd be more than happy to do that. You can email me or call me and I'll be happy to do that. And I will keep that contact information confidential. So I think, we are, look at that, we're on time. And I apologize again for the technical difficulties that my laptop seemed to cause, and we want to get out of sharing. And I guess we will give it back for questions. And I hope you found that helpful. Be careful out there, but we got to remember there are a lot of good people out there too. You just got to make sure you find them and you're working with the right people. Okay, thank you. Did I stop sharing? There we go.
Thank you so much, Nancy. So appreciate both presentations. At this time, I'm going to turn it back to our director, Shonda Wingo, to wrap up.
Yes, thank you, Caroline. Another great thank you and round of applause for Nancy and Terry. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for all of the information. Again, our goal is to make sure that not just our seniors have this information, but that everyone that is around our seniors, their families, their friends, their neighbors, daughters, uncles, aunts, everyone. Because our belief is that if everyone has this information, we can do a better job of supporting our seniors and making sure that they're safe, not just in their homes, but financially. So at this time, we are closing. Look forward to our next senior seminar in the month of November, and we will have an additional one in the month of December. And we look forward to you all joining us at that time. Thank you.